you're thoroughly going to enjoy this presentation today. We have a guest speaker who's coming from Fort Collins, Colorado. So for our presenter, to help students cope with the loss of friends and family at one of his schools, Edward Kuhn wrote a 12-page pamphlet titled Lost Love. Lost Love told a true and powerful story of a young girl's life, including an inspirational message to help students cope with their loss. A few years later, Mr. Kuhn received an anonymous call from a man in Branson, Missouri, whose family benefited from the message within Lost Love. The man encouraged Kuhn to tell the whole story of Lost Love in book form. Today, Mr. Kuhn's new book, Eclipsed: Destination Unknown, published by Westbound Press, expands upon the story of love lost. The true story within Eclipsed: Destination Unknown centers on two 15-year-olds from upstate New York, this area, whose lives become filled with a journey, romance, friendship, forgiveness, trust, dreams, devastation, and faith. This true story starts off in the small town of Liberty, New York, located in the Catskill Mountains. In the nearby town of Wurtsboro, these locations all sound familiar to you? Mr. Kuhn has lived a rough life, Jimmy, the person in this story, Jimmy has lived a rough life so far and thinks he can handle anything life may throw at him in the future. Little does he know the world he thought he knew is about to be turned upside down by a hazel-eyed girl who will open his heart and mind, showing him a world he never knew existed. In a world where most dreams stay dreams, these two adolescents are about to find out how possible it is to turn dreams into reality and what it means to go above and beyond the distance for someone else. This story will take the reader into a world through the eyes of innocence and help them to remember the things in their own life that are and were important to the reader as a youth. Mr. Kuhn says, "My main goal is to open the eyes of those who have walked through this life blind, and to help them see by giving them the faith and courage to take a chance and truly live and love as they were meant to." The message of Eclipse: Destination Unknown is clear. Whether in times of accomplishment or devastation, a light of hope can always outshine the darkness that surrounds our daily lives. Mr. Kuhn is passionate about inspiring others with his words and knowledge. Originally from New York himself, today he lives in Fort Collins, Colorado. For more than 20 years, due to this story, he has given to help others and continues to do so in his everyday life. Eclipse: Destination Unknown is his fourth published book, succeeding his previous works, Where is Angel, Helping Hand, and The Man's Guide to the Secrets of the Woman. Readers can learn more about Mr. Kuhn's newest book by visiting jnewhall70.wix.com/eclipsed. It is my pleasure to introduce Sullivan County BOCES alumni and published author, Mr. Edward Kuhn.
Good morning. Just out of curiosity, are there any students here that live in the Wurtsboro area? It's good to see you guys. I'd like you guys to give yourselves a hand for being here today and following through with education. And for those of you who are past the age of 15 and 16, following through with your education is very important. So thank you for being here. Now, I know that Sullivan County is kind of a rough place to grow up. It's not easy here. You go through a lot of challenges. A lot of people that are from here, unfortunately, they kind of don't exceed what their expectations should be and follow their dreams. Sometimes we get lost in different things, different friends who convince us that things that we're doing today that are important can be put off to tomorrow. And sometimes tomorrow never comes. And so we lose hope of our dreams and our goals. Sometimes we come from families where it's kind of rough growing up in a household. Sometimes we grow up in a family where there's alcohol involved, sometimes where there's drugs, and unfortunately sometimes where there's abuse. Before I came to BOCES, I was actually a fairly decent student, but I was growing up the hard way. Does anyone here know who Jesse James is, and not the singer? Who's Jesse James?
He's a cowboy.
What was Jesse James known for?
Robbing banks and stealing trains.
So would you guys say that Jesse James was a very good person?
No.
Jesse James was pretty tough. He had a pretty bad attitude. He served in the war, but due to someone doing something to his family, he became an American outlaw. When I was growing up, I was a combination between Jesse James, James Dean. Don't know if that name rings a bell with any of you. And Elvis Presley. I heard a laugh over there. Someone knows who Elvis is. In school, in Fallsburg, I was the kid that if you were a bully, I was the kid that went after you if you picked on someone who was not as strong as you, not as tough as you, not as smart as you. People would see me running in. How many students here from Fallsburg High School? Okay. Fallsburg High School has different tiers. I would come flying off the second floor tier, not touch one step, going down to the next tier, and go after people that I saw trying to push other kids into lockers, picking on them, knocking their books out of their hands, and I did not take a back step to anyone. Now, if you were someone who was being picked on, you were part of the crowd that I hung out with. Someone who was there for education, trying to make that difference, and trying to be someone in the future. When I was very young, unfortunately, a lot of bad things happened in my life. My parents were divorced by the time I was 7 due to alcoholism in the family. There were occasional times that around certain family members, not my parents, but certain family members, I was exposed to drugs. And my father, here's another name that some of you may not or may recognize. My father was like John Wayne. How many of you know who John Wayne was? Who was John Wayne, sir?
John Wayne was a famous actor in Western.
And what was John Wayne's attitude? Was he a compassionate person or was he really tough? That's how my father was. My father was a combination of John Wayne and a drill sergeant. You didn't dare to say no. And especially if he had a bottle in his hand. By looking at some of your faces, I can tell that you know where I'm coming from with this. I ended up coming to BOCES because of my attitude. And I assaulted a teacher, which I should not have done, at Fallsburg High School. Because of my actions, I came here to BOCES. When I walked through the doors of BOCES, it probably took about 4 or 5 months before I would really talk to anyone. Before I would listen to anyone who had anything to say, because at that point in my life, I was a teenager, I was tough. I didn't need to listen to anybody because of the way I grew up. I could take on the world. I had this reputation about myself. When I walked down the hall, people kind of stood to the side because they knew what kind of person I was at that point in time. About 6 months of attending BOCES, I started finding that not all adults are the same. Not all teachers are just teachers. And not all other students are just students. And not everyone thinks the same. Not every situation is bad. And not everyone who you meet wants something from you in order for you to do something for them. When I came here, I was introduced to one of my teachers, which was, I believe her name was Carrie Mahoney. She was my homeroom teacher. Carrie went out of her way to make a difference. She saw that I was struggling, my grades had dropped, and I didn't care. I was just going to be here for as long as I needed to be here, and I was going to be gone. My life was planned out for me. They used to tell me that I'd never see 19, or that I would end up in prison before I hit the age of 19 for doing something that was a little bit less than moral. I didn't want that for myself. So I started letting some of these teachers in. I started letting some other students in who became really, really good lifelong friends and making an impact. Through those friends, I met other parents who showed me that there was a better way, that you don't have to give in to bad things because someone tells you this is what's going to happen in your life. Your life has been written out. You come from a family that has no money. You come from an abused background. You don't have this. You don't have that. One thing I started soon learning is that it doesn't matter who you are, where you come from, what kind of clothes you wear, who your parents are, or what kind of life you were brought up into. That particular thing does not determine who you are in the future. Each and every one of you, from students to staff and special guests, are individuals. No one can tell you where your future is going to go. There's no such thing as a mind reader. Even people who achieve greatness, people who have lots and lots of money. I come from a city, well, I come from here, but the city I live in is called Fort Collins, Colorado. Fort Collins, Colorado is the #2 place to live in the entire United States. We have a great educational system. We have a great community. Walt Disney fashioned downtown Walt Disney after Fort Collins, Colorado. We are a very tight-knit community where people reach out to one each other to make a difference. One of the richest people in the world, and I have to put this out there, I'm not about money, I've never been about money. I think money kind of puts us on the back burner of who we really are. But one of the richest people in the world, by the name of Pat Stryker, lives in Fort Collins, Colorado. She runs a society called the Bohemian Society, which works with educational groups, works with special music acts, and making a difference in the lives of youth like yourselves. Regardless again, of where you come from, how you grew up, how you're growing up, the challenges that you deal with at home, the challenges that you deal with friends, being part of social groups, being part of what they call the clique. There are no cliques. Each and every person in this room, and within the sound of my voice, we all bleed the same, and we all breathe the same exact air. Not one person in this room, whether student or adult, is any greater or any better than the other. Your teachers here are here to inspire you, to educate you, and to prepare you for the world. Without these teachers, without these mentors in your life, is when you have other people come into your life and tell you, you're not going to achieve this, you're not going to achieve that. Stop dreaming about this or stop dreaming about that. You come from this background. I'm telling you how your life is going to roll out. That is not the case. You know, I look out and I see all of you. And to some of you, I mean, little country word backing. It may sound like I'm blowing smoke. Unfortunately, a lot of people do. But I grew up here. I was that tough kid. I came from a bad family. I lost family members. I was on the streets. I had no place to go. But I found trust. I found inspiration. And I started finding humanity. Those are things that you need in your life. Any great person in life that tells you that they've made it to the top by themselves, they are blowing smoke. No one in this life makes anything of themselves by doing it by themselves. It all starts somewhere. Sometimes you have a great family, very supportive. Follow your dreams. You may hit a rough patch, but then, you know, through great teachers, great other people in your life, such as parents, aunts, uncles, and people who work to inspire other people. You will run into all those types of people in your life. And those are the ones that make a difference. Now, as I said before I came to BOCES, I had this bad reputation. And it wasn't just at Fallsburg. I would walk through the streets of my hometown. I would walk through the streets of Liberty, Monticello, Narrowsburg, Jeffersonville, Callicoon, Checkton. When people saw me coming, they knew what was coming with me. And I was never alone. And unfortunately, due to some of my actions, back then at that point, I actually inspired other people, but in the wrong way, before finding out what I was supposed to be doing the right way. The story that I've written about actually talks about some of those challenges. Who we are, our dreams, our goals, our inspirations as kids. The way that the story is written up is not by an adult. It actually starts off as a troubled 15-year-old student who had nowhere to go, no inspirations, no hopes, dreams, future goals. And again, which brings us right back here to the school. Through hard work, following through, and some of you who are experiencing tough times at home and in groups of friends may find it a little hard to believe, but your teachers do care. I know sometimes someone may say something to you, and as a teenager, I can tell you firsthand, sometimes as a teenager, we take things the wrong way because we are teenagers, we're young adults. We know what we want to do with our futures. But the question is, do we really? We have people who want to be music stars, actors. I met a young man a few months ago. I was coming through New York. He had gone to Monticello High School, and he was a rough kid. But he had promoted a rap CD. Now, growing up, I have 11 siblings, so I listened to every type of music possible. This young man was walking through the ShopRite parking lot, and he started walking towards me, took one look at me, and flipped around and went back the other way, and I saw that he had a handful of something. So I called out to him, and he looks at me and he says, "Me?" Like I was a police officer, like I was going to take away his life. Now, mind you, I did work for the United States government for 10 years. So sometimes I do come off that way. But I ended up talking to this young man, and he was 19 years old, struggled to get through school. Came up in a household that was very, very abusive. And unfortunately, here in Sullivan County, he wasn't getting his shots. I asked him for a copy of his CD. I said, "Are you selling these?" And he said, "Yes, sir. But I don't want to get in trouble." Again, thinking that I'm a cop. I explained to the young man that I was from here, and I know how hard it is to achieve those goals, those dreams, making something out of yourself, making your mark as a youth. That's something most of us do not get the opportunity to do. Again, that's where it comes back to growing up and people seeing you trying to do something. But because, and this is kind of a known thing in Sullivan County, when someone doesn't achieve their dreams, they tend to down-talk other people into not achieving their dreams. Filling their heads with things saying, "You'll never do that, you'll never make it, you don't have the money, you don't have the talent." Sullivan County has a lot of talent. I know some very great people that have come from Sullivan County. One of them being in the room today, actually the mayor of Wurtsboro. This young man that I was talking to did end up giving me one of his CDs, and I gave him $5, which is what he was selling his CDs for, because he wanted to make his way to Los Angeles, where he had a promise of an audition with Death Row Records. That inspired me, that he was trying. I took the CD, I did put it in the CD player, and I listened to it while he stood there. Now, I did not agree with his lyrics. There was profanity involved. And being away from New York, I know this may be hard to believe, but sometimes here it's almost a second language to use profanity when you talk. Where I've been living for the last 20 years, we don't talk like that. There's a larger world outside of Sullivan County, like a different country. After listening to this young man's CD, which I did listen to 5 of the 7 songs on this CD, I handed him a card of someone that I knew in Los Angeles, who actually is an agent in the music business, and told him to give this person a call. He looked at the card and he laughed. He said, "Yeah, right." I said, "Hold on." And I asked him, I said, "Do you have a cell phone?" And he said, "Yes, I do." I said, "Can I see it?" And he said, "Why?" I said, "Trust me, I'm not going to put it in my car and drive away with your cell phone. I want to show you something." So the young man unlocks the phone and he hands it to me. I dialed the number on the card. The phone rings. I asked for this specific gentleman who was a producer. Tell him about the gentleman that I'm talking to. Now, as I said, this is not my genre of music. I actually do rock and roll and country. I know. Don't yell at me too much, but this is Sullivan County and there's country here. But I did speak to him, and he said, "You know what? I'd love to speak to this young man." This young man goes on to tell him about this chance that he has to sign with this label. This producer knows this particular label. You have to be, unfortunately, a name. You have to have an agent. You have to have representation. You have to be out playing someplace to even get in an audition with this particular label. And I'm sure that a lot of you who listen to rap music probably know this record label. A lot of artists, such as 50 Cent, are part of this label. I hand the phone to the young man. He stands next to my vehicle and he talks for a half hour to this producer. And then I hear him give the producer an address. The producer offered to send him a bus ticket to Los Angeles because he was trying to make something of himself. Because he refused to listen to people who told him, "You can't do this." Because he came from a bad family, but he didn't want that life. He didn't want to be involved in drugs and alcohol, be involved in gangs, because that is not the road that's going to put you in a good future. Over the years, most people will tell you that they've worn different hats. I've worn different coats. As I said, when I came here, I was the rebel. I had friends that were more questionable than you can imagine. Now, today I still wear my leather jacket because I love my leather jacket. And I'm also putting a rock and roll show together. Does anyone know what the rodeo is? Anyone in here know what the bull rider is?
Yes.
In 2001, I received a jacket for bull riding. I attended the National Finals Rodeo in Las Vegas. Over the years, I had met some great people in that business, such as Cody Lambert and the legendary Lane Frost. Now, if you know rodeo and bull riding, you would know Lane Frost. He was the youngest cowboy to make it into the Hall of Fame in history. No one has touched his record. But when Lane grew up, he grew up hard. He grew up on a ranch, learning hard work, but had a very early dream, like so many of us. He wanted to make something of himself, make something great of himself, stand out in the crowd, rise above everyone else. But he never stepped on anyone's toes. Now, Tuff Hedeman, who was a very good friend, Elaine Frost, his first name was really Richard, but they used to call him Tuff because he used to go into a bar after the rodeo and look for fights to show how tough he was to stand up with for his name. After Lane had passed, he was taken down by a bull in Cheyenne, Wyoming. His story had changed so many lives because he was so young. But in his young time, stood out and made a difference. Followed through with goals, followed through with dreams. Now, I'm not only an author, I also do things in the country music field. I have written some country songs out there that have been sang by other artists. This particular book I actually did write and produce a music piece called Memories, and it's just music. That music, that sound, is a sound that I found here in Sullivan County. It's a sound that was created by words of inspiration from friends, students, acquaintances, teachers, parents, and my hopes and dreams and faith in finding a more positive tomorrow. I wanted to change the world. I wanted to inspire people. This jacket was made for me by some friends. Now, I can tell you this. I never made it in the Marine Corps. Sorry to say. But I come from a family of people who were involved in the Marine Corps. I was actually asked to do something else. Because of my background, because of following through with dreams and goals, that individuals in the United States government felt that I could serve a better purpose doing something else, something more positive. Don't get me wrong, I love the Marine Corps. I love all of our armed forces, the gentlemen and women, young and old, who stand on the wall and protect my freedom every single night. I give no honor, no higher honor to that. Not even, and this may sound a little strange, not even to the President of the United States. To me, a position in life does not define who you are. To me, making lots of money does not define who you are. But your actions will always speak louder than your words. Standing out in the middle of the dark and being a light of hope for someone else is who we should be. Making that difference, following our dreams, following our goals, but not at the cost of someone else. Over the years, I had thought that in order for me to achieve, I had to step on toes. I had to kick open doors, walk on someone else to take that step higher. I had thought that, wow, in order for me to do all these things, I need lots and lots of money. Ironically, that is not the case. This is a jacket that was given to me by a race car driver. We had a very lengthy conversation about education, making differences. When I had met this gentleman, I was trying to follow a dream of one of my brothers who was actually a master mechanic here in the state of New York. I figured nothing else was working, so maybe I should just follow somebody else. After sitting down with this gentleman and realizing that even though he was a little younger than me, he had grown up in an area of this particular sport and told me that it's not easy and that you shouldn't have to take a back seat in life to someone else. You shouldn't have to take a step back and say, you know what? My dreams aren't working out. Maybe I just need to fall in. Fall in and do what everyone else is doing. This gentleman looked at me and he said, based on what you told me, how you grew up and these things that you've done throughout life, why would you sacrifice who you are? Why would you take the chance and belittle yourself? Take your dreams, throw them underneath the rock, have them disappear? And I said, well, you know, times are tough and I've helped people my entire life. But my life's not going anywhere. He said, well, wait a minute. Now, after all that you've told me, now you're telling me that your life hasn't gone anywhere, but you've accomplished so much. You've made a difference. You followed through with some of those goals and dreams. And just because some of them haven't happened yet, it doesn't matter that they won't. But don't give in to trying to be someone else. Don't give in to someone else saying, you know what? You don't have what it takes. You don't have the ability to bring people in, bring people together. I looked at him and I said, you're right. It's not easy growing up, and especially growing up here in Sullivan County. We are the toughest county in the state of New York to grow up in. Tougher than New York City, believe it or not. New York City, you have things at your fingertips. Detroit, Chicago, Los Angeles, all these big places, you have things at your fingertips. And yes, it's easier to get in trouble. But here in Sullivan County, something worse happens. You forget who you are because you let yourself go. You let your dreams go. You let your aspirations go. Your goals of being who you dream of when you're a little kid. Does anyone here know what I'm talking about? That gentleman over there. I don't know if anybody can see him, but he just raised his hand. When you were little, what did you dream about doing? Selling cookies. How about you?
Being a singer.
Being a singer. Where do you see yourself with that right now?
I changed it because I want to be a leader.
You changed because you want to be a midwife. How old are you?
14.
14. Okay, 14. So are those your two dreams, your goals? Now, that's not a bad combination because you can get out there and sing, and if there's a situation going on and someone needs help in the other area, hey, you're there. Always keep those dreams. How about you? What's that? A nurse? And you still want to do it? That's good. Yeah. No matter what anyone says to you, keep going forward.
I was the one wanted to be a vet, but someone told me you have too many vets, so I have to do it.
Okay, that is a misconception. To be a vet, you do need good grades. You need to follow through with your goals. The best veterinarian school is actually where I'm from, well, where I currently live, which is Fort Collins, Colorado. People come from all over the world, and there's never a shortage of veterinarians. It's good vets who want to follow through. Don't give up on that dream. How about you, sir? Yes. Yes, sir. What's that? Basketball. Judging how you're sitting, you look kind of tall. Now, back when I attended BOCES, and I don't know if they still have it every year, and it would be really great if they do, we used to have once a year where the students played the teachers in a basketball game. Back in the day, we were called the Knights. And we had a really, really good team. And it was kind of funny because at first, when someone had said something to us about it, it was kind of a joke. Students playing teachers in basketball, really? Well, we knew we were going to wipe the floor with them. But even though we did win, we got a big surprise. Those teachers were pretty good.
What year did you graduate? Or did you graduate?
I left BOCES in 1987.
You're young.
Actually, I'm a little older than I look. I appreciate that, though. Part of doing the right thing in life, I don't drink. I do not smoke. I do no drugs. I still have, unfortunately, some questionable friends that are kind of on the outer circle that I see occasionally. And the only reason why they are friends is because every once in a while I get to inspire them and get them to do something good. A couple of those friends actually ride with a biker gang called the Hells Angels. Now, everybody knows the reputation of the Hells Angels was not good back in the day. But through years of hard work from people like myself and others, they have occasionally done rallies across the United States, just like the Guardian Angels, to help raise money for communities, to help stand up and stand out against people doing wrong to one another. Of course, and then I have my friends that I've known for many, many years. Unfortunately, today, my closest friend from BOCES is not here, but he drives a school bus for Rolling V. His name is Kenneth Richardson. He also, anyone here from Grahamsville? Kenneth, or Kenny, is actually part of the fire department down in Grahamsville. He's doing something honorable. He stayed here in Sullivan County, did not give up, but still wanted to make a difference and stand out in the crowd, but not too far out in the crowd. But to be part of the community that he's grown up in. Now, as many of you are from different towns throughout Sullivan County, there is something that binds all of you here today. You are from Sullivan County. We are from Sullivan County. No. Every once in a while, as I was saying, I came from a real rough family. When I was very, very young, due to bad things happening, my siblings and I were separated. This young lady, stand next to me even though she's older than me. This young lady is a sister that I hadn't seen for 38 years. We were separated due to growing up in this hard family. She was raised by another part of the family, which I did not see except for once until I was about 14 years of age. Through the amazing power and inspiration of this school, the book was created telling this story of someone that I met here who changed my life in more ways than I had a clue, who literally turned my world inside out, upside down, full 360, however you want to look at it. It was like an atomic bomb going off when this person entered my life. When this story started making an impact, as it is today, I was able to come back to the area. And about that same time, my foster father had passed. He was the mayor of Bloomingburg. Very great man. I learned a lot of lessons. Throughout the years, he stayed in my life, even though I lived with my father until I was 15. But he had made such an impact, and he had showed me it doesn't matter who you are, we are all the same. It doesn't matter if you're a mayor of a town, the president of the United States, or the richest person on the planet. We are all the same. After he had passed, I came back to the area about a week later, and I ran into my brother John. And my brother John did attend BOCES. He was struck by lightning at about the age of 10 in Middletown, New York. We were experiencing one of the worst, minus the current storm Sandy. Back then, it was one of the worst storms the state of New York had ever seen. He was running up Main Street, trying to get home to my aunt's house. The rain was pouring down. And as he stepped off one curb, lightning hit the bottom of his foot, tossing him 300 feet. So, and up to that point, he was the type of person, he was Reggie Jackson. He could hit a ball out of the park every single time. He could put a football to his foot and kick it from one goal field in an NFL stadium, and it would not touch till it hit the other end. But because these things happened to him, he did attend school here because he could not get the help that he truly needed to help him become an adult in regular school. He graduated here at the age of 21. Now, he works for a local garage here in Liberty. And I had, my foster sister and I had been communicating for about the last 3 years. And we had gotten into a conversation about him, and she said she knew where he was because we had not seen each other over 20 years. When I left home on a bad note. I really didn't want anything to do with family. So I closed out my family and disappeared. Many people had thought I passed, as well as my brother. When we showed up at Mike's Garage in Liberty, my brother, who I had remembered being about this much taller than me, now stands this tall. And we had walked up to him, and he recognized my foster sister because she lives here. And he took one look at me, and he said, "Who the heck are you?" Well, she looks at him, and she says, "This is your little brother." He got a little pale. He took 3 steps back. Told me that he had heard that I had died years and years ago because of the future that everyone had laid out for me. I would be either in prison or dead before I turned 19 years of age. Because that's the way it was. That's how it was written. But in reality, that's not how it was. After speaking with him for a while, I met one of his sons, who ironically looks a lot like me. Same size, same build, and he's a mechanic, very good mechanic. We had gotten into a conversation about family members. And he said, "Well, Aunt Vicky lives not too far from here." And I said, "Who's Aunt Vicky?" He said, "You know, Aunt Vicky. We have Aunt Patty, which is actually my oldest sister, and Aunt Vicky, who is my oldest brother's twin." And I said, "Well, I'd love to talk to her. I'd love to see her. We haven't seen each other since I was 6 years old." We spoke a little on the phone. And a week later, we met face to face. This is my sister. It took 38 years. 38 years for us to come together. People tell you that things will never happen. Dreams don't come true. You say, "I want to do this," and people say, "That's a pipe dream." Nope, not going to happen. Guess what? Dreams come true. Miracles happen, but miracles do not come from up above. Miracles do not come from money. Miracles come from in here. Following through with your dreams, your goals, your hopes of a better tomorrow. Dreams that these teachers here want to help see you achieve. When a teacher is pushing you extra hard, and you're thinking, "Man, she's being a bully, or he's being a bully, it's so tough, I can't wait to get out of here." You know what? If they didn't care, they wouldn't be here. The teachers of the state of New York are some of the lowest paid teachers in the United States. They're not here for a paycheck, not here because they have nothing better to do. They're not here to be bullies, but they're here to help see and make sure that all of you make something out of yourselves. And if you ask them, I can guarantee that they will tell you that they don't want to see any of you on the streets, or in prison, or worst case scenario, 6 foot under. You are the future generation. I got lucky. I was born at the end of one century and came into the next. So I get to say, hey, I'm pretty old because That's like 2 centuries old. Not many people get to say that have actually followed their dreams and their goals and their hopes for a better tomorrow. Who in here thinks that the President of the United States has an important job? Can I show of hands again? Who in this room thinks that the President of the United States is more important than they currently are? Show of hands, anyone? What's your name? Can you stand up? Can you stand up for a moment? Sorry. Why do you think the President of the United States is greater than you? He has a higher job. How do you think the President of the United States got to be the President? Okay. How would you say he worked for it? Okay. Now, yes, the President of the United States is an important person. Very important. But you know what? So is everyone in this room. Any of you sitting here today, and someone will tell you that this is a pipe dream. You will tell people about this conversation that you had with a speaker at your school today. And they'll tell you, no, you don't have what it takes. But each and every one of you in here, at this point in your life, has the ability to be the President of the United States, man or woman, regardless of where you grew up, regardless of who you currently are. Being the President of the United States is a great dream. But here's the kicker. He is no more important than any of you in here. He has a very important job. He is the most known person, not just in the United States, but in the world. I've exchanged emails with the White House, which he was invited to this event today, and I kind of joked with him because I told him if you weren't on my security list, you couldn't attend. And the response was, you would deny the President of the United States. Don't take this wrong. I'm very patriotic. But for the safety and security of your futures, I would deny my own father coming in here if he was not approved by me to come into the school. No one person anywhere is any more important than anyone else. You are here because education is key. Now, just a quick show of hands. How many of you feel that you don't need mathematics in your future? All right. Sir, can you stand up? We all saw you. Why do you think that mathematics isn't important to your future?
I guess it is.
What's that? It's important because what?
You need to count money, you need to do math in life. Because you need to count, you need to do money problems and working. It's basically all the way.
Exactly. I don't know if everyone heard her, but she said basically mathematics is needed your entire life. And she is 100% right. Everything you do in life adds up to a number. Whether you're a mechanic, you're working at McDonald's.
You don't need a degree to work at McDonald's.
What's that?
You don't need a high school degree.
Yes, ironically, now to work at McDonald's, you have to graduate school. Or you have to be part of a work-study program, and you have good grades. Or you can't work at McDonald's. which actually I think is real good business. Now, I'm not a fan of McDonald's. Back in the early days, it kind of did something to me pretty bad, and I used to be out here and found out that I was very unhealthy. I didn't like that idea. So I started taking better care of myself. But she is right. To work at McDonald's, so to flip a hamburger, or ask somebody, would you like fries with that? You have to have some kind of schooling, some kind of degree. You have to know how to add. You have to know how to subtract. How many fries are actually in that container?
Sorry, like they need to count what happens if the machine breaks down and there's no way to do it.
Good point. How many people in here love technology? Your cell phones, your iPads, the whole 9 yards. Makes your life easy, right?
What happens if there wasn't?
Now, how many of you actually grew up with that cell phone or technology in your hands since you were very, very young? Okay. Tomorrow, worst case scenario. Does anyone in here know what an EMP is? Exactly. Electromagnetic pulse. If someone were to set one of these things off, technology would be fried. If you did not have education, you would be in trouble because you wouldn't know how to add. You wouldn't know how to fix the problem, which is scientific, so you need science. What's that? Oh, satellite dish. Well, everything would be fried. So there would be nothing. We would basically be back to the early 1800s, trying to figure out what are we doing. So many people would be walking around like cattle in a circle, saying, "Are we there yet? Is it fixed? When can I have my cell phone back?" The purpose of the school is to teach you the things that revolve outside of that. Teach you to use your brain, from compassionate teachers to the mathematics, literature, science, and history that you find in the books that you were taught with. Without these 4 things in your life, I can tell you this, because I've seen it happen so many times. Without these 4 things, from these great faculty, and being here for you, things look pretty dim. But I can guarantee you, sitting here in this room, I can guarantee you there are, I would say, at least 9 people that I can see in the music business. See a future basketball star sitting over there. Actually, I'm looking at that whole group. You don't need to be a certain height. You don't need to be, and this kind of kills me, you don't need to be of a certain race. You don't need to be from a certain family or have a certain amount of money. Each and every one in here has talent. Each and every one in here has a goal, a dream, hopes of finding themselves in the world, making a difference, and a brighter tomorrow. My hopes and dreams for the future of this country and the rest of the world is on you guys. You are the future. You are the difference. You are my hopes of a bigger, better, and brighter tomorrow. And regardless of what anyone tells you, I'm telling you for a fact, I came from the worst possible scenario that you could grow up in, and I do mean the worst. There are certain things that are a little bit more of a graphic nature that I will not share, but I can tell you, it doesn't matter. Because your past does not define your future. All of you have the ability to be great and make the world great. I once heard someone say that we're born into this world with a paintbrush. Take that paintbrush and walk out into the world and color it the way we want it to be. To inspire others by making it the most beautiful colors of the world, creating greatness. And that's what all of you are. From the teachers, to students, to honored guests. Just a quick example, the mayor of Wardsboro is sitting there in the back. She wasn't always the mayor. She also taught at Monticello. Which school was it?
And where?
27 years. Which school was that? 27 years. In order to get to where you wanted to be today, when you were younger, did you have a dream of wanting to do something like being the mayor? Where did you see yourself in the future as a kid?
Well, actually, at 9 years old, my uncle worked in Washington, D.C. And I took me for a tour of the Capitol building and the White House. And got very interested in Kennedy's family at that time. And so someday, hopefully, that I could be something like that. But truthfully, in my heart, I wanted to be a nurse. And for that young lady that said that she wanted to be a nurse, please proceed to do it, because I went to 2 years of college, didn't finish my nursing, and for the rest of my life, I always wished that that's what I did. But I did work in the health field too for 18 years, doing nursing care. And I would say to all of you, if you really want to think and say, please follow what you do.
That came from an elected official. I'll be honest with you. She's from Sullivan County. But if she was running for mayor, or running for president, excuse me, if she was running for president, that's what makes a president. Exactly what she just said. Following through with those goals, with those dreams.
I have two questions. When you were writing goals, have you ever got hurt?
Yes, I was obviously not the best bull rider. I had a neighbor. As I said, I grew up here in the area. I had a neighbor that lived down the road quite a bit, and they had horses. And so I actually grew up riding bareback. So when I first got into rodeo, I actually rode bareback, which was pretty simple. And then bull riding, which I thought I had it all worked out. I didn't have a clue. I hit the ground more times than most people probably should. I made a mistake. I didn't do my homework. Went out, didn't have a helmet on, never done it before. And I had gotten thrown so far that I smashed into a cattle guard. And yes, into a metal gate. And actually broke some ribs. So, yes.
We're just about out of time.
Okay.
Okay.
I think we're going to have a little bit of time. If any of you have questions, that you can come up and talk to me. But we're going to have to wrap up this session. And I think the principal will let you know how to go about that.
Yeah, thanks. Let's give a round of applause for our presenter.